Hi, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Surreal, and I made this channel with the sole purpose of having a space to talk about being Christian in the 21st century and the difference that it makes to have a relationship with God when you are walking in faith. So let me just preface this whole thing by speaking about how difficult it was to be a Christian back in the time when Jesus was around, right? He died on the cross, came back to life, ascended into heaven, and the followers that he left behind ended up dying for their faith because they would not deny that God was real, that did happen. And so they had to die in order for Christianity to live, right? The plight that we're having today is the fact that people get offended so easily and nobody wants to offend anyone. So we tend to feel, and I think that culturally speaking, I'm observing that Christians tend to feel like it's a little bit easier to talk about their faith with other Christians, and then they can just partake in that camaraderie and that fulfillment in God with each other. But I don't see that we're really talking to other people who don't have that connection and don't have that experience with other people as often. And I think the reason why that's happening is because we don't want to come across as pushy, you know? We don't want to come across as it's our way or the highway, you know? And everyone else is going to hell if you're not a Christian, right? And we don't want to come across as judgmental, which oftentimes I think we're labeled that way, you know, because there's so many rules in the Bible and whatnot. But the truth of the matter is that we should want to talk about it more often, because if we feel, let's say, compelled, I liken it to this. I go to the store, I try something for my skin and I love it. And I feel compelled to tell other people about it because it helped me so much and I like helping people. So if I feel like I'm helping someone by sharing a skincare product, for example, why would I not feel like I'm helping someone by sharing the love of Christ with them? If you have a relationship with God, that love has transformed you. It has made you into a better version of yourself. It has liberated you from oppression, from sin, from eternal death. And you should want to tell other people about the feeling that you have from serving God, from serving Christ. It's become very ritualistic, I think, to come to church. You go and you check the box. I went to church on Sunday, and that's what being a Christian is. And I that couldn't be farther from the truth. So what does it look like to have a relationship with God? How do you have a relationship with any human being, with any person? You talk to them, they talk to you, you get to know their personality, you see how they react, they see how you react, right? So being a Christian that has a relationship with God is one that they pray, they read the Bible, or in my case, I listen to it because I have an app read it to me. And you study God's personality in the scriptures, and you have dialogue with him, sincere and genuine dialogue from the bottom of your heart. And then as you continue on in life, the miraculous thing that happens is that God shows you that he's listening to you and that he's there and that he wants you to know that. So let me give you some examples. When I was a young girl, maybe I was 12 or something, I grew up Pentecostal, so I was going to church from the age of 5, 4 times a week. I couldn't wear any pants. I had to wear skirts all the time. I couldn't cut my hair. It was very strict. But the good thing about that upbringing was the fact that I learned a lot about the actual Bible, the Word. I was exposed a lot to that. I had to read it in Spanish, and I learned Spanish very well because of that. But being in that type of faith, that doctrine, it really forces you to distinguish yourself from the rest of the world. People see you and they know you're different because of the way that you're clothed, right? And because you're distinguished, it's almost like society kind of pushes you out. They kind of push you aside because they know you're different and they're going to treat you differently. And you tend to have relationships more often with the people in your community, right? I nowadays, I feel like that is probably not what God intended. I think that if people are going to know that you're different, it should be because of the way that you carry yourself and how you speak and how you treat people, not because of how you're dressed, right? There are advantages that you automatically put yourself in a position to be more spiritual. But I think because it separates you so much from the rest of the world, it's harder for you to go out there and talk to people about God and have them see like, hey, it's not that hard to be a Christian. You don't have to change your whole entire life to be a Christian, right? So that was just a tangent. But when I was 12, I was praying to God and I said, God, are you there? Because I grew up in church. I've been going 4 times a week. I don't even know if you're really listening, if you're really real. I'm hearing all these stories about you and I do what I'm told, but I don't really know what to believe. And I just need to know that you are listening and that you're there for me to keep this up, And it was probably 3 or 4 in the morning. And I was listening to a Christian radio station because back in the day, there were no CDs. I don't even think I had a Walkman at that point. Actually, no, I did have a Walkman. But the radio is where I got most of my music, right? There was no internet. And as I was praying those words, the man on the radio started speaking. And he said, you, kneeling down on the floor by your bed, praying, I'm listening to you. And I was like, who, me? And the man said, yes, you. And my heart was beating like crazy. I was like, oh my God, it's God. He's like really listening to me. And, the man went on to say just a lot of like personal things that I knew that he was talking to me. They were directly related to me and my life. And honestly, he told me that he wanted me to go out into the world and tell people about him. And here I am, At that time in my life, I was just like, what? I so don't see myself like on a stage with a microphone talking to a bunch of people about God, right? But that's not what God had in mind. I think this is what he had in mind. And so, that was many years ago. And I stepped away from God for a while because I grew up in New York City and I didn't want to get ridiculed in public high school wearing the skirts. And I kind of took a gamble and I said, you know what? I just want to live my life and do me. And, I'll come back to God at some point, but it's just not for me right now. And I think that there are a lot of people out there today like that were, took the same gamble that I did. Just saying, when I'm ready to give up, going out and partying, when I'm ready to go to church all the time and, just pray and fast all the time, then I'll come back, right? But, we never know when it's going to be our moment to go. And trust me, you do not want to leave this earth not being right with God and not being in community with him and right in his eyes. I'm reading a book right now called The Divine Revelations of Hell. It's going to sound a little crazy, right? But the lady who wrote the book, she's Christian, and she had a supernatural experience. So it's not the first time someone's had a supernatural experience. We've heard of this before. We've heard of people who died and come back and they tell us the stories about God and what happened. And, so this part's not unusual. But in her book, she talks about an encounter that she had with Jesus. where for 10 nights straight, he came and visited her at night, and he would take her to hell so that he could show her what hell was like, so that she could write a book about it, so that people would not want to go there. And I think one of the biggest tricks that the devil has succeeded with is convincing people that he doesn't exist, that hell isn't real. And trust me, I'm not here to tell you like, oh, you need to be Christian so you don't go to hell. You know, like this is way bigger than that. What I'm saying is that we're living in a time where you don't know when it's going to be your time to go, right? You can catch a virus tomorrow and just be gone just like that, right? The only thing that is bringing me peace and joy and gratefulness in a time of so much chaos is the fact that I have Jesus in my life, and that I feel just covered by the grace of God. You know, I feel like God is in control of my life. I have surrendered my life to him. And so whatever happens from now on is in his will. He has a plan that he has written. You think that this is coming down to us out of the blue? No. I think that God is angry with his people because we aren't, we're just like letting society silence us, and we're not standing up and being proud about our faith and wanting to share the good news with people. People think that, oh, becoming a Christian means I have to like give up my life and, just like live differently. And I don't want to do that. And, I don't want to lose everything. You don't lose everything by being Christian. You gain everything, including life, eternal life. And so, when I stepped away and lived my life however I wanted to live it, the realization that I came to one day when I was surrounded with all these people that like listen to the same music as me, and we were all like made decent incomes, and we could just afford to have a blast and just be all crazy and whatnot. I had a moment where I was like, is this all that life has to offer? Is this it? I didn't even really think that I was surrounded by the type of relationships that would make me live to my full potential. And I realized, what your love, God, is so much better than what the world has to give. I remember that moment where I felt so empty and just like surrounded by people that didn't really love me, You don't have to be perfect to look for God. People think to themselves like, oh, I can't go to church because I'm living in sin. I'm not going to be fake. I'm not going to pray to God now that I'm in need, now that I'm scared for my life because of this virus. I'm not going to go over to him and ask him to help me when I haven't been living my life in a way, where that pleases him. And now I'm going to go over to him and ask him to help me. No, like I'm not going to be fake. You don't realize, you're missing the point here. You don't realize that you are a child of God and he loves you and he's waiting for you with open arms. It reminds me of the story of the prodigal son who asked his father for his inheritance, and then he stepped away and squandered it all, and he was eating with the pigs and realized like, oh, I should just go back to my father and ask him to be a servant of his, because then at least I won't be in these conditions. And when he came back, his father like just hugged him and threw a party for him and clothed him with the best clothes. That's how much God loves us too. He's always waiting for us. And anything that's stopping you from wanting to seek him or build that relationship with him is a figment of your imagination. There's nothing in the way. All you need to do is be willing and be genuine. years ago on Easter Sunday, I don't know, maybe like 8, 9 years ago, I have a story to tell you. I was working at an airport at the time in Georgia, and I was going through a very difficult time in my life. I think I was like 23 or so. It was 10 years ago. Anyway, the point is that I went to church at the airport that day. And I went and I prayed and I thanked God and I praised him. And I wanted to commemorate, the day and what happened many years ago, how he died on the cross and came back to life and the sacrifice he made for me. So I went to church, had that moment with God, and I came back to my kiosk to finish working. I was selling credit cards, and I remember like it was yesterday, I was like about to triple bonus. I was doing amazing, and I was just getting the people to come over, sign them up, like, ma'am, sir, you flying AirTran? Oh, this is for you. Like, whatever my pitch was. And it was just in and out, and it was beautiful, right? And then I think I needed 3 more for me to hit my bonus, my last bonus. And this gentleman is like, he's walking by me, and I call him over, and he comes. I pitch him the credit card, and he says, sure, I want to sign up, right? So I'm doing the application, and I put everything in, and when it comes to the decision page, it was just taking too long to get a decision. So I tried to tell him, like, well, here's your ID. I signed you up for the credit card. We will wait to see what the decision is in the mail. The computer's taking too long, and I don't want to waste your time. So, just wait and see what they tell you. And he goes, no, that's okay. I have time. I'll just wait. So at this point, I wanted to be cordial, so I started having a conversation with him, and I'm like, okay, so where are you flying in from today? He's like, oh, Vegas. I'm like, Vegas? Oh, fun. I've been there several times, yes. What were you doing in Vegas? He goes, oh, I was at a convention. I was like, oh, you were at a convention in Vegas on Easter. What was the convention about? And he goes, oh, it was an atheist convention. I was like, interesting. An atheist convention on Easter Sunday. That makes so much sense. So at this point, I'm having a conversation with God in my head, right? And I'm like, God, did you put this man in front of me because you want me to say something to him? Because I don't know what you want me to say to him. So if that is the case, I'm going to need you to tell me what to say. And I would like for him to leave sooner than later so that I can continue on with my progress here and finish up my day. But if this is your will, then I want to do what you want me to do. I want you to use me to speak to him. So just tell me what to say. So I started asking the man some questions. And I said, okay, so tell me, what's your experience? Why did you become atheist? Did you just never believe in God? Did you have a relationship with God? What happened there? And he goes, oh, actually, I used to go to church. I used to have a position in church. And, I realized that I kind of was just going through the motions. I never felt a connection. I didn't think it was real. I think it's just a hoax, And I wanted to be around other atheists today that just had the same experience as me and felt that connection. And I said, okay, all right. And, so what happened that you were in church and then you decided that, God wasn't real? Did anything happen in your life, that made you change your mind or made you doubt? And as it turns out, he did have a family member that passed away, and he felt like, how could God be real if my family member passed away? He felt like this family member didn't deserve it, so God must not be real that he would allow such a thing, And I asked, well, what kind of people were there with you? Were there other people that, used to be in church, or is it mostly people that were never in church? And he said, no, there were many people there who had been in church, who had positions like being priests and pastors. And, they all feel the same way, that they were just going through the motions and there was really nothing there and God doesn't really exist. And I said, okay. And so then I said, you know what? Listen, It's very ironic that you're speaking with me right now. You were trying to exit the building, and it turns out that you were going the wrong way. The exit is that way. And it just so happens that I called you over and you came over here. And it just so happens that you signed up for this credit card. And it just so happened that this computer is taking a really long time as we wait for the decision for your credit card. So, I just want to be very respectful of your feelings, and, I want to validate that, and I understand that it's very difficult when someone passes away and you don't understand how this could be fair, right? But I want to let you know that it's not our part, it's not our job to decide what happens, how it happens, why it happens. There's just something so much bigger at work, and there's just a plan that's just outside of our control. And we may not understand right away. We may not ever understand, but there's a reason why things happen. And it's in those times that you're supposed to reach out more to God and have that solace within Him. And I'm sorry that you weren't able to feel that. But I think the reason why you kind of had this change of heart is because you may have never had a relationship with God. When you have a relationship with God, you feel like you can be living on the street under a box by yourself, and that everything is going to be okay, because you know deep in your heart that God is with you and He's in control and He's going to take care of you. No matter what happens, it's in His plan and He's watching out for you. And I think that there's a part of you that does not want to believe that. I think there's a part of you that is not sure if there is a God. I don't think you're totally convinced that there isn't one. And so I want to share with you this. If you want to know for sure if there's a God or not, if you have an inkling of a doubt that maybe you're wrong, maybe there is a God, why don't you just pray to Him? And why don't you just say, God, I was in church. I was trying to have a connection with you. I didn't feel anything. I don't think that you're there. I don't think that you're listening. And I want to know the truth. I want to know if you're there. I want to know what I should believe. So if you are there, if you are listening, if you really are God, can you please show me? Can you please prove to me that you're there, that I'm not alone? And then, I said to him, don't ask God to turn the sky purple for you to believe Him. Don't test Him like that. But ask Him for a sign. Ask Him to show you His glory in a way, so that these doubts could leave your mind and so you could just know for sure. And then right then and there, the screen came up and it said that he had been denied for the credit card. And I let him know, and I sent him on his way, and I said, please don't forget what I told you. And I could just tell from the look in his eye that he just really needed to hear that. And so I don't know how many other people in the world may feel like this man did. And I don't know how many people in the world are hesitant to want to start walking with God because they think they have to be perfect before they do. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. If you're living right now in fear and doubt, and you have, no hope, God is your hope. And He's waiting for you. He loves you. It doesn't matter what the situation is or how bad you think you are. God's loved worse people. God loves us all. It doesn't matter. We're all His children. So I just come before you today to ask you to try to have a conversation with Him and try to get to know Him. and genuinely open up your heart and seek the presence of the Holy Spirit